Gentlemen, to deliver the invocation, Dr. Laura Hargrove.
Let us draw nigh to the one who is the source of our strength and the strength of our lives, and let us pray. O God, as we gather at the water's edge this morning, we find ourselves united in remembrance and reflection. We stand in the shadows of a past marked by the tragic collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge, the memory of which has left an indelible mark on our hearts and our history. And in the solemnity of this moment, we invoke your presence as we honor those whose lives have been forever changed, as we acknowledge their pain, but also the possibilities that rest in the hands of the one who can make a way out of no way, even 1 year later. There are many reasons why we have gathered today. We came to pay homage to the ones who paid the ultimate price of their lives on that fateful day. We came to call their names. We came to call Alejandro's name. We came to call Carlos's name. We came to call Jose's name. Oh, we came to call the names. We came to call Miguel and Maynor and Leon. We call their names because their names hold meaning and memory. We call their names because they are still missed. We call their names because they are still loved, and we call their names because they are still remembered. We are grateful this morning for the resilience that resides in the people of this great state. And we came in a spirit of thanksgiving for the families of our 6 heroes, for the first responders, for every responder, for this administration, and for those who worked tirelessly to do in 11 weeks what they said would take 11 months. And we say, thank you. You made us believe in the power of the one that is able to make the impossible possible. For our esteemed Governor Wes Moore, who led the way with tenacity, and Lieutenant Governor Aruna K. Miller for standing in the gap, thank you. We have come to give thanks for every deed, seen and unseen, every kind word and listening ear, known and unknown, for every human and every holy act of grace that has brought us safe thus far, and that same grace will lead us on. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, Secretary Paul Wiedefeld.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this somber morning. We are here to commemorate the devastating collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge and to remember the 6 dedicated roadway workers who lost their lives. I think about these men and all of our roadway workers who maintain Maryland's transportation system. They show up and work in dangerous conditions. Our roadway workers deserve our utmost respect as they take risks and make sacrifices every single day to make our journey a little smoother. 1 year ago, many of us woke up to a phone call and the disbelief that the gateway to Baltimore was gone. It was clear from the wreckage blocking the shipping channel to the Port of Baltimore that the cleanup would take time and immense coordination. Lives and livelihoods would also be impacted. Looking back on those first 72 hours, so much was happening all at once. But thankfully, Maryland was extremely fortunate to have a leader with the experience to steer us through the crisis, with the strength, the confidence, and clear direction. Governor Moore kept us focused on the mission at hand while also thinking of the people who were impacted. We're also fortunate to have such a strong partnership with our federal, state, and local leaders who worked in lockstep to ease the fears and provide best response. Through this incredible partnership across the public and private sectors, we helped bring closure to the families, supported impacted workers and businesses, and reopened the shipping channel. And now work is well underway on the governor's fourth directive to rebuild the bridge. Governor Moore unveiled the new design last month, and pre-construction activities are underway. Demolition of the remaining bridge structure will happen later this year, followed by the start of the construction of the new bridge. Let me close by expressing my immense pride in the employees of the Maryland Department of Transportation. From the quick and heroic actions of the Maryland Transportation Authority police and dispatchers who stopped traffic on the bridge and saved lives. The MDTA's Executive Director, Bruce Gartner, and Chief Engineer, Jim Harkness, who continue to work tirelessly behind the scenes to build the new Key Bridge. And I also want to thank the Port of Baltimore's Executive Director, Jonathan Daniels, and our partner, Ports America Chesapeake, who helped keep the port open for business and workers on the job. Across the entire department, MDOT remains dedicated to delivering and maintaining a safe, efficient, and reliable transportation system for all. Thank you again for joining us this morning.
Ladies and gentlemen, Governor Wes Moore.
I want to thank everyone for being here. From the families, to our elected officials, to our first responders, to our military personnel, to our labor leaders, to our esteemed guests, including the Mexican ambassador. Y Padre Dios, gracias por hoy y por esta mañana. Juntos estamos en commemoration. This morning, we gather back to where we started, in the same place, at the same time. And even though the scene looks different, our memories are engraved. We remember the cold morning in March that changed our state forever. And we remember the tears that we shed and the uncertainty that we all felt. We remember looking out and seeing a deeply painful and unfamiliar sight, that a fixture of the Baltimore skyline and of Baltimore spirit, that parts of it were now laying on top of a ship, the length of 3 football fields. We remember the heartbreak that we felt to learn that 6 remarkable Marylanders who had been working while we slept, 6 patriots who endured the rattling of cars and trucks so the rest of us could be safe, that they were now unaccounted for. What happened on March 26, 2024 is and will always be a tragedy beyond words. And to the families of the victims that are with us today, there is little that I can say to truly be the balm for the pain that you feel. But I hope that you know that the prayers that we shared that morning, they were sincere. And I hope that you know that the promises that we made, we intend to keep. But the 6 victims of the Key Bridge collapse, they should be here right now. Menor Yasir Suazo Sandoval should be here. Miguel Angel Luna Gonzalez should be here. Jose Minor Lopez should be here. Alejandro Hernandez Fuentes should be here. Dorleon Ronial Castillo Cabrera should be here. Carlos Daniel Hernandez should be here. We continue to pray for them and their loved ones. No pasa un día sin que estemos pensando en todos ustedes. Los vemos, estamos con todos ustedes y cuentan con todo nuestro apoyo, ahora y siempre. But we don't just look back on March 26th and remember the horror, we also remember the heroism. Because in the face of one of the worst tragedies in our state's history, Marylanders did what we always do. Marylanders stepped up. Our first responders, who didn't ask who was on the bridge before they dove into the water. Our firefighters, who didn't demand specifics before they rushed to the scene. Our officers who didn't ask for instructions before they put their bodies in the way of traffic to keep drivers from meeting a fatal journey in the black of night. Our service members, our Coast Guard, our Army Corps of Engineers, Navy SUPSOLV, who didn't ask who was in trouble before they kissed their loved ones goodbye and traveled to Baltimore to do their duty. The private sector rallied. The General Assembly rallied. Leaders at local and state and federal levels rallied. Our unified command rallied. We laid out 4 objectives that morning. And together, and with God's grace, we brought closure to the families, supported our people, and cleared the channel in 11 weeks when people said it would take 11 months. There were no guarantees that we would succeed. But that was not going to stop us in getting the work done. The steel was so mangled that one small misstep could set us back weeks or months. The debris was so sharp and so difficult to navigate that every single rescue operation that took place ran the risk of incurring another casualty. The devastation was so vast that we didn't know whether we could ever reunite the families with the ones that they lost. The economic impacts were so wide-ranging that Marylanders might have not just seen their jobs disappear, but they might have seen their jobs never return. And one of the most important ports in this entire country had the risk of losing partners permanently. But we did not let the what-ifs stop us from doing our work and from staying the course. We led with humanity. We set big goals, and we put together a plan to achieve them. And we stayed united, always, and led from the front. I believe that is what it means to be Maryland tough and Baltimore strong. To look danger and uncertainty in the face and know that we will never flinch. To answer a moment of crisis with genuine courage, to help each other when one of us gets knocked down. It's who we are. It's who we'll always be. And I know that soon, after accomplishing the first 3 objectives, we will accomplish the 4th. Which is Marylanders of this generation and the next will look up and once again see the Francis Scott Key Bridge standing tall, and you have my word on that. May God continue to watch over our victims and their families and our team and this great state. God bless you all.
Ladies and gentlemen, Senate President Bill Ferguson.
Good morning. Mr. Governor, I have to admit I am more emotional than I expected this morning. Pulling up today and seeing this span immediately took me back to that moment in a way that I cannot even fathom the families of the victims of this horrible tragedy are feeling. Your loss is truly unimaginable, and I just want to say thank you for being here to remember your loved ones in a way that is impossible to describe, and I can only imagine how this past year has been. And I do want you to know, from the perspective of the General Assembly and the Senate of Maryland, we are truly here for you through this year and through the months and years ahead. This tragedy is overwhelming, and we sympathize with you every day. I remember a year ago standing on just the banks and seeing this horrific tragedy and immediately thinking of those who had been affected and thinking, how do we move forward from this? How do we not get stuck in a moment of paralysis? And I think of a saying that former President Barack Obama said, that when things seem the most hopeless, the next thing you have to do is just act. You just have to do one next thing. Find hope with one next action. And you know what I realized was that it was already happening. By 6:30 in the morning, our first responders were already in the water. Our firefighters had units from across the entire region out, ready to continue the rebuild and recovery. We had the Coast Guard, the Corps of Engineers, across local government, state government, federal government. We had heroes stepping up within minutes. In the deepest of tragedies, we share a common bond of the horror of pain of human suffering. But there's also the other side. The other side is the common belief in love and a hopeful future. And when I sit here today in front of that span and I look out into the audience of these incredible leaders and first responders, I hearken to that moment of hope where it became clear that this is going to be a moment that defines us. When people were acting, no one asked what political party they were from. No one asked where they grew up. No one asked what race they were. They showed up and did the job. And at a time when people have questions about government and our ability to do the right thing, to help people, this last year has been proof that we are better together to rebuild and to define a common purpose for the future. I want to thank each and every one of you for your impact. You are here today because you recognize that in the deepest of pain, that is the moment of the phoenix and rising, where we find our strength and our core humanity together. From the bottom of my heart, on behalf of the Maryland Senate, on behalf of the General Assembly, I want to thank each and every one of you for your continued impact and your belief in who we are as Marylanders, those who know that together we are unstoppable. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Senator Chris Van Hollen.
We all remember where we were when we learned that the Key Bridge fell. It's a moment we will never forget. because the collapse of the Key Bridge was a local tragedy, it was a national tragedy, it was an international tragedy. It was a tragedy that was felt around the world. First and foremost, it was a human tragedy. We lost 6 beautiful souls who were working the overnight shift. Each had loved ones who were joining us today who depended on them. 4 were fathers. Our hearts are with you, their families, and loved ones. We know that 1 year passing does not lessen your grief. And this anniversary must be an especially difficult time. We love you, and we will be with you forever. The collapse also disrupted the lives and the livelihoods of countless Marylanders. It deprived Baltimore City of a vital artery, and the fallen debris choked off the channel to the great Port of Baltimore, an economic engine for our state and the region and the country. But as the bridge came apart, we all came together. The first responders, including the Maryland Transportation Authority officers who stopped additional traffic from going onto the bridge, preventing further tragic loss of life. The Maryland State Police, who recovered the bodies. Governor Moore, thank you for pulling our state together at that moment of tragedy, you and your team. And to Mayor Scott and the county executives and all of your teams who rallied to meet the moment. And the federal government immediately swung into action. President Biden ordered the deployment of the full resources of the federal government to help a city in need. The Unified Command was assembled under the umbrella of the Coast Guard. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers cleared the channel, floated away the dolly, and helped reopen the port. Naval officers and others were part of these teams. The governor and the General Assembly and federal agencies provided economic relief to those who were most harmed financially. And thanks to those collective efforts, all of them, people in this room and others who joined in that effort over those very difficult days, thanks to all of that, lives were saved, economic harm to the longshoremen and Baltimore businesses were mitigated, and the Port of Baltimore reopened in just 78 days. And we all got together to begin to put together the plans for a new bridge because, as the governor said, we never ever doubted that we would build a new Key Bridge where the current bridge collapsed. And all of us in Federal Team Maryland got to work, including my dear friend and former Senate partner, Ben Cardin, who is here with us today. Thank you, Senator Cardin. And Congressman Mfume, and I see Congressman Hoyer, our entire delegation on a bipartisan basis, came together and worked nonstop over many, many months to secure a 100% commitment from the federal government to replace the bridge. And last night, on the floor of the United States Senate, my new partner in the Senate, Senator Ulster Brooks, and I thanked our colleagues from around the country because they did what we would hope every American would do at a time of need. They stepped up to help a great city and a great state. This all-hands-on-deck effort upholds a tradition that lies at the foundation of our union. When disaster strikes any one state or city, all of the rest of us should rally to assist. It's all for one and one for all. Now, the governor and Secretary Wiedefeld and their teams have unveiled a new design, and permitting is underway. As the governor said, we will make sure a new Key Bridge rises from this disaster. Out of this tragedy came unity. Unity of purpose, unity of action. Let us maintain that spirit of unity as we in Maryland meet the challenges ahead. God bless you all.
Ladies and gentlemen, Congressman Kwesi Mfume.
Good morning. I want to first, if I might, properly so, just share with these families the fact that you have been in our hearts and on our minds every day since this tragedy occurred. And under the leadership of Governor Moore, who was our quarterback and remains our quarterback, the promises that have been made are promises that will be kept. God is providential. These things happen in life to all of us, but it is only God that realizes why. So we pray for you, we pray with you, and we say that we love you all. Again, I want to mention the name of Governor Moore because he didn't get elected expecting something like this so shortly after being sworn in. But he and his team that were assembled, that have been mentioned and will be mentioned again, work with all of us. And boy, do we spend so many days down here, week after week, morning after morning, meeting with the press, talking with people who are providing, thanking the volunteers from Dundalk and Turner Station who brought food over in those early weeks, and believing that if we just stuck together, we would find our way forward. I can't underscore enough the impact that those two communities, Dundalk and Turner Station, felt as a result of this. I see Johnny Ray Sailing and Rick Metzger here. They were here when many of us got here, Governor, that morning, after having spoken with the President, as he did with you and with Mayor Scott and others, promising that this would be taken care of, and there would, in fact, be a new bridge. I'm going to, if I might, be deliberately redundant and underscore the name of Senator Ben Cardin, who worked tirelessly with Chris Van Hollen and all of us on the House side, Steny, Dutch Rupersberger in his absence, to put together sort of congressional effort both in the House of Representatives and in the Senate that could, in fact, win. You know, we're a small state with a small delegation, but when we are determined, we always win. Ben, thank you, and thank you for being here, and thank you, Steny. There's so many small businesses that are going to be meeting later today. That impact cannot be underscored enough. The truckers, the people who carried the food, the International Longshoremen, Local 33, Scott Cowan, and all those men and women that we met with on the docks day after day after day to try to figure out how commerce would start up again. Gwen Williamson and all the many people who've worked 20 and 30 years at the port, none of whom knew what was going to happen. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank the Coast Guard, the Army Corps of Engineers, Colonel Pinchason in her absence, for all that she did to hold us together and to help us through that period. Mayor Scott, to his credit, put so much into this effort to keep the city of Baltimore and the county of Baltimore lockstep. He and Johnny O at the time were here every day doing that. This bridge connected two different communities. And having grown up here as a child, remembering what it was like when there was nothing in the water but water, I can't begin to tell you the amount of pride that people took in 1971 when there was a decision to build this bridge. There was an argument whether it should be a bridge or a tunnel. It ended up being the bridge, and we, since that time, looked at it as a great arching steel cathedral over these two communities that meant hope, that meant transportation, that meant access. And people grew up here every day after that, watching the sun kiss the steel beams because it went up so high, believing that it was their cathedral and would be there forever. So we all obviously mourn the loss of the bridge and what it meant. But what it means today is that hope is anew. It means that when you do stay together and work together, you stay together, you win together. And it means soon, and very soon, we will have the continuation of this story. Because that day when we met here, it was just like this, cold, windy, but overcast. Today is cold and windy, but the sun is out. And the sun is a great reminder of the bright things that are before all of us as we stay together as two communities. God bless you, and thank all of you for all you've done to get us to this point.
Ladies and gentlemen, Congressman Johnny Olszewski.
Good morning. Whether you lived here before, you live here now, you work here, welcome to our home. Along with so many others, I had the privilege of growing up and living today in the shadow of this bridge. We fished under it. We celebrated getting our driver's license by driving over the bridge. We had murals of it in our bars. We put it on our sports uniforms. It was our cathedral in the sky. It's part of who I am. It's part of who this community is. And 1 year ago, we lost an iconic symbol of connection, one that not only connected us, but supported the livelihood of countless residents, our dock workers, truck drivers, small business owners, and more. It's difficult to fully explain the absence of the Francis Scott Key Bridge to anyone not from here. But in that moment and in that experience, we were reminded that we were connected in ways that can never be broken by disaster. We were connected immediately to the families of those brave men who were serving us. And today we remember Alejandro, Carlos, Miguel, Dorlinian, Menor, Jose. We remember them and we thank them for their service to our community and their love for their families. We were reminded how we were connected to our first responders who jumped in the water, stopped the traffic, didn't ask questions, just served. We were reminded how we were connected to our government when we saw Governor Moore step forward and lead, when President Biden offered the full support of our federal government, and we saw the Navy, the Army, and countless other agencies come together to move us forward. We were reminded how interconnected we were as a region, and I had the privilege of serving alongside Mayor Scott, County Executive Pittman, our federal delegation, and so many others. And so we came together. We came together once a year ago, and we come together today with a commitment to come back and be even better and stronger, taking the lessons and the memories of 1 year ago with us. We all have a stake in the future of this community. We have a stake in the future of supporting our families, and we have a stake in building this bridge. This is bigger than Baltimore. This is bigger than Maryland. I'm so proud to be part of so many in this place and in this space. I promise in this new role, I will carry forward the lessons of being alongside you, and we will get this done. Together, we will rise from this, literally and figuratively, building a bridge to the future. This experience has reflected our resilience and our love for each other, and may those lessons and memories carry us forward in the work ahead. Thank you all, and God bless.
And now, a musical selection by the Baltimore Symphony Orchestra. Ladies and gentlemen, Lieutenant Governor Aruna Miller.
Thank you to the BSO for that beautiful music that you just played. You warmed all our souls here. Thank you. There are days that divide time, before and after. Days that shake us, inspire us, and reveal who we really are. March 26, 2024, drew a line in time. It was a day of heartbreak, courage, and a day that changed all our timelines. We gather here today to reflect and to move forward with purpose. And we mark 1 year since the Key Bridge collapse. To the families who lost their loved ones, there's nothing I can say that can make this day easier. But I hope being here together reminds you your loss is not invisible. Your grief is not carried alone. And your loved ones helped build this community. They shaped its story. They shaped our story. And while they may no longer walk amongst us, may they rest in peace. And may they live through each and every single one of you. To Julio Cervantes Suarez, the sole survivor of the collapse, you are the light that shines through the darkness that you endured. We pray for your continued strength and for your heart to heal. To Governor Moore, in one of Maryland's worst maritime disasters, you met crises not with hesitation, but with purpose. You reminded us that leadership isn't loud. It's steady, it's measured, and it's rooted in service to others. To our first responders, Unified Command, the MDOT labor team, and members of the Moore-Miller administration. You met the moment working tirelessly day and night. Your dedication didn't just steady our state, you raised the bar for a world that watched. To our federal, state, and local partners, your immediate and collaborative efforts showed that statesmanship is grounded in partnership and not partisanship. And to all Marylanders, not far from where the Key Bridge once stood, Francis Scott Key penned the words of our national anthem. Born from a night of hardship, lifted by the promise of a new dawn. Now, in the shadow of that same harbor, Maryland's first cable-stayed bridge will rise. A bridge that will define Baltimore's skyline for generations to come. And not simply to replace what we lost, but to reveal what we found. Strength, unity, and resilience, and the spirit that defines this great state of Maryland, because Maryland is the land of the free and home of the brave. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, U.S. Coast Guard Rear Admiral Shannon Gilreath.
Good morning. I have the great honor today to speak on behalf of the first responders to this response. And I want to start by acknowledging the families Colonel Pinchason said it way better than I can today, but our thoughts, prayers, and condolences are with you, especially during this week. To Governor Moore, to Secretary Wiedefeld, to Mayor Scott, and all of our senators and congressmen and state elected officials and county elected officials and city officials and your staffs, thank you for the tremendous support you provided Unified Command during this response. Coming together in a bipartisan way to support the Unified Command, to visit the members of the Unified Command, to see what they were doing, to understand the work that they were accomplishing. We truly appreciate what you did, and we also appreciate what you did that we couldn't do. Your work behind the scenes to support the victims, the businesses, the members of the maritime community that were impacted by this event. Thank you for that support, because that truly eased some of the pressure on the Unified Command. To the more than 1,500 first responders from 55 agencies and organizations who responded to this event and were part of Unified Command, thank you from the bottom of my heart for your hard work, your incredible dedication that you displayed throughout the response. What you accomplished recovering the victims, removing the bridge debris, opening alternate channels, removing the ship, and restoring the Port of Baltimore was simply amazing and serves as a testament of power to the unity of effort. There's no single entity that can respond to an event like this by themselves. No entity has the authority or the resources to do this by themselves. You have to do this together. And the Unified Command represents that opportunity to do that together. And I'm so proud of that unity of effort you displayed. You accomplished things on a timeline that no one was imagined was possible. You removed thousands of tons of steel and concrete from the waterway and recovered the victims and reopened the Port of Baltimore in a time that no one thought was imaginable. I want to say a special thank you to a handful of individuals who worked tirelessly within the Unified Command. They truly led their organizations. These are the real heroes of the Unified Command. Captain Dave O'Connell of the Coast Guard, Colonel S.D. Pinchason of the Army Corps of Engineers, Jeff Donahue of the Maryland Department of Environment, Jim Harkness of the Maryland Transportation Authority, Colonel Roland Butler of the Maryland State Police, and Chris James of Widow Bryan's. Your leadership, dedication, and willingness to work with others modeled the unity of effort that we so much needed. I truly appreciate everything you did. And there's one other individual who worked with inside the Unified Command that I must recognize, and that's Mr. Paul Hankins from Navy Supervisor of Salvage. I see you out there, Paul. Paul, the work that you did with the salvers and the divers to coordinate those efforts truly made a difference. Governor Scott, or Governor Moore, Lieutenant Governor Miller, thank you for your individual leadership during this response. Thank you for the amount of time that you spent inside the Unified Command, visiting with people, walking the floor, getting out on the small boats to see the conditions they were working in. Thank you for that unqualifying support and the love you showed those members of that team. And thank you particularly for your emphasis on safety, as not a single first responder was hurt during this event, and that's a testament to your leadership. In closing, I want to say a particular word of thanks to the maritime community here in the Port of Baltimore and to the people in the community of Baltimore for your support and patience during this event. You met every possible need we voiced to you. You supported us with cards and letters and heartfelt thanks, visiting the Unified Command, bringing service animals to raise people's morale. That level of support truly made a difference in the morale of the first responders, and we can't thank you enough for that. It was truly our privilege to get to serve you. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, Baltimore County Executive Kathy Klausmeyer.
Good morning. And it is a good morning this morning. Last year it wasn't, but we're here to continue and think about what's ahead of us in the next few years. I first want to say my condolences are with all of those that have passed on the bridge and their families. My thoughts and prayers are with you all. I want to thank Governor Wes Moore for being here and pulling everyone together. And I just have a few words that I just want to read. I'm the newbie on the block. That's all I kept thinking today, because I was sitting in Annapolis with my colleagues that morning, and I think someone said Senator Saling is here and Delegate Metzger. And Senator Saling got up and he started to speak, and you could have heard a pin drop because it was such an event of horror, and just, we were all speechless. But I just am grateful that we're all here today, and I want to thank Governor Wes Moore for gathering us and for his continued efforts to help our region recover. Thank you as well to all our federal, state, and local community partners. And I just want to say, I was with County Executive Olszewski just the day before this happened, and my heart went out to him the next day when it happened. It was just so unbelievable to think about. And as I said, it was he and the mayor and County Executive Pittman that I kept thinking of because of the connection of the bridge. Together, we are emerging from this disaster stronger and more resilient than before. We still have many steps ahead of us, but we are recovering thanks to our community and our partners. So thank you to all for all the efforts, and please continue to keep everyone affected by this disaster in your prayers, and let's move forward as we go along. So thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, Baltimore City Mayor Brandon Scott.
Good morning. This morning, I am grateful to be here this morning, surrounded by so many individuals who made up the original team that responded to this unthinkable tragedy. And when I think of that team, Mr. Governor, I want to say thank you to you, to the Admiral, to every single person, because when you think about what we were facing that morning, I would not go into any battle with any team other than the one we went through, because every single individual gave their heart for these families, for our city, for our state, and our region. So thank you, everyone. It is impossible for me this morning to not be reflective of the moment that I received that first call from our Fire Chief, James Wallace, who explained the situation as his team was already being dispatched as some of the first on the scene. I want to thank every first responder from every agency, from every branch of government for your bravery and your work in some of the most challenging conditions that anyone has ever seen or worked in. In that moment, I once had him repeat himself to ensure that I got it right. And we both knew at that very moment that our city and our state will be waking up to a very different reality than when the sun set a few hours before. As we spent those first few minutes and hours together across the water from here at Fort Armstead Park, city, state, and federal teams were already coming together. Everyone working on the scene shared that same priority, those men that we lost in the water. Sadly, that day, I had to remind far too many casual observers that that's where our focus was and where it should remain. But I never had to remind those who were on the ground, risking their own lives and health to bring home to their families Alejandro, Dorlian, Maynor, Carlos, Miguel, and Jose. Families, we made the commitment then that this city and state would wrap our arms around you and stand alongside you and provide whatever support you needed for however long you may need it. We stand by that commitment today, and I'm honored that we had the opportunity to grieve together as we remember the men they were, not just the thing that happened to them. Thank you. While this day is a day of mourning, it is not a day of grief alone. It is a day to commemorate the strength, resilience, and that Baltimore grit that we showed the world in that moment. So many times in Baltimore's history, we faced setbacks or what some say were insurmountable challenges. But every single time in our history, we've overcome those challenges without a doubt. The partnership that helped us navigate through this crisis of this bridge collapse was yet another example in a long list of examples of how strong we can be when collective action brings us together. What I saw in the minutes, hours, days, and weeks following the Key Bridge collapse was an entire country unified in understanding and in action. That is a unity that is all too rare today. And I always will be empowered knowing that we still have the capacity to come together that way. As we look towards the future, a bright one filled with progress for our city, a new bridge to reshape our skyline, and a strong port to continue our centuries-long tradition, the memory of those Marylanders we lost, and the knowledge that we still have the capacity to come together to fight for one another is what I will carry with me more than anything. So thank you to everyone who played a role. Thank you to everyone who rallied for these families in their most devastating moment. Thank you to the communities who came together to keep each other afloat when livelihoods were at stake. Thank you to every first responder and salvage worker and engineer who risked their own safety for all of us. And thank you to the leaders who had the vision and the humility to prioritize the things that matter. Every part of this massive machine that mobilized after this tragedy helped the grit, charm, and greatness of Baltimore shine through to the world once again. We have all proved together that Baltimore is always safe to bet on. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, Anne Arundel County Executive Stuart Pittman.
Morning. I represent the 600,000 people who live across the bridge to the south. Anne Arundel County, whose North County neighborhoods began to truly thrive when the Key Bridge was built, and they could get to the jobs, the steel mill and the Port of Baltimore. I will never forget the phone calls that night, first from my friend, Mayor Brandon Scott, then from my friend, Governor Wes Moore, then from my friend, County Executive Johnny Olszewski, and then our fire chief, Tricia Wolford, whose divers were en route already that night. And then our police chief, Amal Awad, who was at the site with our Northern District Commander and our Homeland Security team. And of course, our Chief Administrative Officer, who does not seem to sleep. I mostly tried to stay out of the way as Governor Moore stepped up and showed the world that government works. The Coast Guard, Army Corps, State Transportation, State Police, all of the public servants at the federal, state, and local levels can do seemingly impossible things together to find and bring home to the families the bodies of beloved men who are working to improve the bridge that we depend on, and to clear the channel faster than anyone thought possible so that international trade could resume at the Port of Baltimore. I took pride in the way that our workforce development team, economic development team, and Social Security agencies stepped up to serve county residents whose livelihoods were threatened by closure of the port and the loss of the bridge. But the greatest impact, the part that moved me personally, and that spoke to our county, our region, our state, and our country, and the world, was who it was that was working that night, who it was that was tending the bridge over our river, who it was doing work that needed to be done, work that most of us lack the skill and the drive to do. It was men from El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Mexico. Each one of them had crossed our southern border looking for a better life for their families. Each one of them was on that bridge making life better for the people who live here, better for Marylanders, better for Americans. They didn't choose to sacrifice their lives for our country, for our bridge, but our country noticed that they did. Our country needed to see that. Miguel Angel Luna lived in Glen Burnie, in the northern part of Anne Arundel County. His extraordinary wife, Maria del Carmen, runs a small business selling delicious food out of a food truck, Salvadoran food. I spent May 11th last year at Miguel's memorial service and burial. I felt the love and the strength of los salvadoreños que viven en nuestro condado. Their culture, their community, their love makes us stronger. Yo quiero decir a todas las familias que está aquí hoy, te queremos aquí. Tú haces que nuestra comunidad sea mejor. Y también el pueblo unido jamás serán vencidos. The people united will never be defeated.
Once again, a musical selection by the Baltimore Symphony Orchestra. Ladies and gentlemen, President and CEO of the Baltimore Community Foundation, Dr. Shanesha Sauls.
Thank you. Today, we remember and honor the human faces and resolve born of a tragedy. This is a heavy day. To the families and all those gathered this morning, we mourn. But please know, no matter how long the winter, spring will surely come. This morning, on behalf of the Baltimore Community Foundation, I'm here to say thank you, Baltimore, and friends of Baltimore. Thank you for showing what it means to be compassionate, to rally when faced with the unexpected and when it matters most. And thank you to Governor Moore, Mayor Scott, our county executives, Lieutenant Governor Miller, for showing us what it means to have mission-driven leadership and partnership. The Maryland Tough, Baltimore Strong Fund was a place where individuals and companies could commemorate the Francis Scott Key Bridge, the victims, and the communities that were affected to address the impacts of the bridge collapse and the closure of the port, as well as to strengthen the surrounding communities and its footprint. That generosity raised $16 million from over 550 individuals and companies. And I am pleased to share with you today that 100% of those dollars have been committed to dozens of credible and worthy partners covering one of four purposes. Direct relief, which includes cash assistance for more than 3,000 port workers and truckers, and also includes stocking food pantries, providing low or no cost mental health services, and supporting housing assistance and eviction prevention for immigrants in bridge and port adjacent communities. Community resilience, which includes a new fireboat for a Baltimore County volunteer fire department, among the first on the scene that suffered damage as they embarked on the waters for rescue and recovery. It includes funding transportation services for the elderly, internalization, and providing access to healthy food options and school-based family health services in Brooklyn Park. Recovery for small businesses, grants for technical assistance planning for businesses in Key Bridge communities, facade improvements in Curtis Bay and Brooklyn Park, and a direct grant program to affected small businesses in the Tri-County area. And finally, remembrance. These efforts fund the collection of oral histories of the victims, families, and workers impacted by the collapse, as well as an upcoming permanent exhibition at the Baltimore Museum of Industry, memorializing the victims and impacts of the bridge collapse while preserving the bridge's significance to Baltimore's economy, maritime industries, and the region's workforce. So I say again, thank you, Baltimore. Thank you for responding, for rebuilding, for supporting, and above all, for remembering. And thank you for working together to build a Baltimore that boasts a growing economy where all have the opportunities to thrive.
Ladies and gentlemen, Special Secretary Maria Martinez reading a message on behalf of the families of the victims.
Good morning, everyone. Buenos días a las familias. If I may, the family has asked for just a moment of silence. Thank you. As everyone can imagine, today has been a very difficult day for the families. Many who had intended to be here today were not able to. They wanted to share their stories with you, but they couldn't. So they asked me if I would just share a few thoughts from them, as well as read the prepared remarks from Mrs. Carmen Luna. On behalf of the families, they wanted to express their immense gratitude to Governor Moore, Lieutenant Governor Miller, and all of those involved in recovering and bringing their loved ones back home for keeping your promise. Lieutenant Governor Miller, they have a special message for you as well. They are very grateful to you because they saw you at each and every service. You were there to console them, hold their hands, and they are forever indebted for your kindness. There are so many heroes, unsung heroes as well, that they're deeply grateful for. And there's so many names that they hope in the future can be shared. And there's people that they don't even know that supported them, and they want to make sure that they know that they're forever grateful to them as well. I will read the prepared remarks of Mrs. Luna. She asked to please forgive her. She had intended to be here. She's a very strong woman, but today was incredibly difficult for her, and she's reflecting and being with her husband in spirit at this time. It is an honor to be here today, and I hope these words resonate with you with the same respect and empathy with which I speak them. My name is Maria del Carmen Luna Castellón, and I'm the wife of Miguel Angel Luna, one of the brave individuals who lost his life in the tragic collision at the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore while working to improve our state's infrastructure. Our 6 family members would still be alive today, and the Francis Scott Key Bridge would still exist as an iconic part of the Baltimore community, if not for the negligent and reckless operation of MDOT. Today I stand before you with a heart still wounded, but also filled with gratitude. I want to express my sincerest thanks not only on behalf, but not only on my behalf, but on behalf of my family, for all of those who supported us. We have received all the blessings and support from Governor Wes Moore's administration and from the community at large following this devastating tragedy. First, I would like to thank Governor Wes Moore from the bottom of my heart for keeping his word. They did not stop until our loved ones could rest in peace. Knowing that no effort was spared, that no hope was abandoned, and has provided us with immense comfort in the midst of this profound pain. The governor's commitment and sensitivity throughout this process have been a beacon in the storm, guiding us toward a bit of peace when everything seemed dark. I also want to sincerely thank everyone for the creation of a scholarship fund. This gesture has not only provided material support, but also demonstrated that even in the darkest times, there are those who care about the future of our families, especially the future of our children. The vision of using education as a tool for rebuilding and healing has deeply touched our lives and gives us hope. I cannot fail to mention the solidarity of Baltimore and its team. The community's fundraising campaign has been a true testament to the love and compassion that unite us. Thanks to this help, we have been able to breathe a little easier, knowing that we have the necessary support until December 2025. But while this support is a relief, today I dare to ask for something more. When the time comes, when the end of this support approaches, I ask you to consider the possibility of extending it. The path to emotional and financial recovery is long, and it is filled with obstacles. Ongoing support would be an invaluable relief to all of us. Finally, I want to ask about something that pains me deeply, but is essential. As many of you know, the FBI-led investigation is crucial in clarifying the responsibilities surrounding this tragedy and ensuring that justice is served. I understand that these investigations take time, but I ask, with all the hope I have left, that this process be expedited as much as possible. We need to move forward with the trial against the irresponsible company that owns the boat. so that we can close this painful chapter with the certainty that everything possible has been done to achieve the justice that Miguel Angel and the other victims deserve. Concrete and steel can be replaced. The laughter of a father, the embrace of a husband, the future of 6 men, these are lost forever. Thank you once again from the bottom of my heart for your support, empathy, and commitment. This support has been a ray of light in the darkness, and I trust that you will continue working tirelessly to ensure justice is done so that no family will have to face the pain we live with today. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, to deliver the benediction, Maryland Transportation Authority Chaplain, Paula Thistle.
One year ago, I received a call that would change my life and the life of so many. But we came together in hope. Even as we remember that pain and that disbelief, even as we mourn the loss, that hope continues. We are strengthened by our faith that one day we will be reunited. And we live with that hope. We come to the end of a horrible, painful year, struggling with grief, remembering loved ones lost. But we will go on. We pray. O God, our Creator, we give you thanks for those who lost their lives 1 year ago. We pray for them, and in their memory, we go forward with strength and resilience. We know, O Lord, that your will has brought them safely home. And to those of us gathered here, go now into the world, continuing the path that God has set before you. May God's Spirit strengthen you in the wilderness. May God's love sustain you in every trial you face. May the grace of God lead you ever onward until we gather and rejoice at the dawn of a new life together. For we know that neither death, nor life, nor angels, nor rulers, nor things present or things to come will ever be able to separate us from the love of God. And with hope and strength, we look forward to that glorious day. Go in peace. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated until the families and program participants depart from the tent.